Welcome, welcome, welcome in, everyone. Welcome to Care Concierge with Care Patrol, where education is the heart of everything we do. Today's topic, like the majority of our topics, was suggested by prior attendees during or using our evaluation. And it is like our topic last week, suicide prevention. A sobering topic. Today's topic is end of life and funeral planning. And I want to say that, I appreciate that each of you show the depth of character and the need and the empathy to take on learning about difficult topics because it helps you enhance your own clinical practice or personal life. And I say it's a tribute to each of you for sitting through these topics and being open to doing so. Today's topic is end of life and funeral planning. And if you are unfamiliar with who we are with Care Patrol, we're aging care navigators, meaning that we help people who are either in the planning phase or in the crisis stage of a healthcare journey understand what services are offered and how those are qualified and paid. And in educating our clients, if they elect community placement, then we would be paid by communities or sitter service providers who we recommend as part of a solution for their overall healthcare journey. That's how we work. About 60% of the people we speak with are not people who look for placement or can qualify or afford it, but we do the same services for everyone because that's the right thing to do. We do encourage discussion, and I hope you'll feel so moved to add your voice to mine today. I do think that each time that you add your experience and observations to mine, it enriches everyone who is in attendance. And you can also, if you like, add your voice to mine. Just shoot me a message letting me know you'd like to speak, and I'll unmute you. Otherwise, use the chat room to join the discussion. If you're somewhat new to Zoom and you're not familiar with the chat, move your cursor to the top of your screen or to the bottom of your screen, at which time a black bar will appear with the word chat somewhere about in the middle of that bar. Click on that and you can add your voice and opinions to those of others on the call. We are accredited by the Alabama Board of Social Work, and we're also accredited by the Alabama Board of Nursing. And each of those boards tell us that this hour is worth 1.0 contact hour for you. You must do our evaluation in order to receive credit. So simply being in attendance is not enough. You must do the evaluation. And the evaluation is password protected. And the reason we password protect our evaluation is so that it's considered, this hour is considered live by the Alabama Board of Social Work. There are those I know who join us each week by phone or who are otherwise unable to see their screen. So let me read to those of you who need it. Today's evaluation link. Again, the evaluation is password protected. We give the password out at today's end, so you'll certainly have the link in anticipation of the password later. And the link is https://www.surveymonkey.com/r/ all uppercase letters and some numbers 7 B as in ball, T as in toy, P as in pet, R57. That is our evaluation link for today. Remember, it's password protected. Nurses will upload your hour for you onto the ABN. Everyone who completes an evaluation will receive a certificate today. And those certificates allow you to put in your name and clinical number on them yourselves. So let's get started with today's topic, end of life and funeral planning, and we'll run through very quickly. Thank you, Ms. Talbert, as always, for posting that survey link in the chat room. We'll run through our objectives. Objective 1 is to discuss the documents needed to create an end-of-life plan, and we'll discuss those sort of throughout the presentation. We're going to list some myths about advanced directives that I found interesting and think that you may find interesting as well. And we're going to provide some information about creating a new document as part of end-of-life document planning called an ethical will. So I want to ask, to get the discussion started today, have you created your own end-of-life plan or funeral plan? Have you planned your funeral? Have you created an end-of-life plan? Do you have something in place in the event that something happens to you unanticipated to spare those who are left behind? I have not, Ms. Talbert says. No, Ms. Williams. Ms. Ward, thank you for offering. You're welcome. No, Miss, not I. Working on it. Oh, thank you, Miss Dixon, for working on it. I have DPO form, but not funeral plan. Oh, Miss Kleiner, you're ahead of everyone else, including me. So this is not something, as I said earlier, that many of us. I do have an advanced directive, Miss Siggers. Great. I have a will, not a funeral plan, Miss Calder. No, says Miss Kelly. So I'm glad this topic reaches each of you in a place where perhaps you can meet it. So I've not created an end of life nor funeral plan either, but as a result of this, I have started one. And the thing about creating an end of life and funeral plan is it's never too early. Of course, it could be too late. But we know that if we do create an end-of-life plan, we need to give ourselves some time to do so and some space to do so, some emotional space, some headspace. And we need to create a plan that truly honors our preferences, and we need to know what those are and our values. It includes planning about medical care, certainly, and also funeral arrangements and burial, but it also includes financial and estate planning. And this is where I want to drive home one of the points today. Ms. Jernigan, I do, but not both of my parents have already completed their funeral plans and they are paid in full. Lots of stress relief for me and my sister. Hear, hear. So with end of life and funeral planning, we know that it's certainly better to make these when we're healthy, right? And we're at home rather than sick or in the hospital or having just heard a sobering diagnosis. We know that it's better to have plans in place, clearly, in any case, and planning anything, have plans in place in case things should change without warning, and it will give you some peace of mind, as it does Miss Jernigan, simply knowing that her parents have their funeral and burial plans already in place. Having your own plans in place will give you peace of mind, and not only you, but those in your life. But again, it requires time and reflection to create these plans. But here's the beauty of taking the time to do so. Thinking ahead may help you reprioritize your own financial accounts and goals for the near term, for now, in the distant future, as well as the end of your life. And research shows us that thinking about death can actually improve our sense of purpose and of meaning, which is what each of us strive for, and make coping with death that much easier. So how do we begin to create an end of life or funeral plan? Does anyone have any ideas? How do we begin to do this? We think now perhaps it's important for us to do so. Where do we start? Well, first, we want to create what we'll call a crisis notebook. And this is something that would be both hard copy and digital copy and stored in various places with various persons. And there is here a link. If you will control click this link in the presentation that you'll receive, it will take you to an AARP worksheet in which you can begin to start listing out and compiling all the documents that we need as we complete an end-of-life plan. Specifically, those are medical documents, legal documents, as well as financial documents, including our end-of-life burial or interment plans as well. And then step two, we want to begin compiling those documents. So after we list those documents, make note of the documents that we have, we want to begin compiling the documents necessary. Can you send out that worksheet lead in the chat? I technologically, I'm not sure how to do that, but I'm sorry I can't. But let me go back to the screen before Ms. Kleiner, and I'll give you the link is AARP worksheet PG1 AA in parentheses AARP.org in parentheses. But again, when you get this, you'll get it out. I don't think I can copy and paste it from the presentation, but perhaps someone else could now that it's on the screen. Forgive me for not being able to do that. We want to prepare a living will. So living wills, as you know, are legal documents like durable powers of attorney for healthcare. Living will is a type of advance directive, one that if you've not already completed, you certainly want to do. It only goes into effect if you're no longer able to express your wishes due to injury or illness, and it specifies not only which medical treatments you want, but which medical treatments you don't want. And specifically in this form, which is here on the screen, this is the Alabama healthcare proxy document that is linked here at the bottom of the screen and within the text. I'll read it to you momentarily, but it asks these specific questions. Would you want to restart your heart? Would you want a mechanical ventilator? Would you want feeding tubes, emergency surgery to save your life, medicines or blood products, preferences for organ donation? So you can even select within the category whether you would want an IV or any type of infused product in an ambulance on the way to being treated. And so it's a pretty straightforward, I think, 3-page document that's pretty easy to fill out. And I've got one. There's the medical power of attorney, which is a different document, which is a medical proxy document. And this is someone you're assigning legally to make decisions for you if you're no longer able, including life-sustaining treatment. And this is someone that should be familiar to you and familiar to your wishes, someone with whom you're very close. And each state has its own paperwork. But again, here's the link to Alabama's paperwork. It is ADVDIRECTIVE space parentheses Alabama Public Health.gov in parentheses. So if you click onto that document, let me see if you know what, I can do this. ADV. Well, I did it, but I did it to the wrong group of folks. Here you go. Here's the advance directive from Alabama. And there's also something, and you may be familiar with this, y'all, called the 5 wishes. It's a document you see fairly often, really. And it essentially helps you create an end-of-life plan just as we're doing now, including gathering these types of documents. And I've got a link here as well for the 5 wishes for someone who might wish to go and check it out. And it also includes a plan for your assets, including your advance directive for after you die, or they don't always, but they can. So you could include your assets in your advance directive. That was news to me, y'all. What are the 5 wishes? I don't recall them off the top of my head, but essentially 5 Wishes is an organization that created a document by which you can gather all of these other documents. So list, do you have a will? Do you have a power of attorney? Do you have a living will? Do you have this? Do you have that? What are your bank accounts? What are your savings accounts? Things of that nature. And as you go through each of those steps, at the conclusion of going through the 5 wishes, you have completed an end of life plan. So the 5 wishes are related to that. I don't know what the 5 wishes are. I didn't read the document as closely as I should have, and I apologize, Jennifer. But that's what they are, and you can find them. Just Google 5 wishes; it'll come right up. So a healthcare proxy, as we were talking about, is someone that would provide choices about your medical care, including medical test or surgery. It gives you the right to request or decline life support treatments. It gives you choices about pain management, including refusal of certain medications or procedures, which you might do for any number of reasons, including religious. It could include, in terms of your healthcare proxy, language about you being admitted to assisted living or hospice or a nursing home. Choices about where to seek medical treatment. Otherwise, you can specify certain hospitals or certain ERs that you prefer, or if you had cancer that you might prefer that you would go out of state, for example. It gives you the right to see and approve the release of your medical records, and not only you the right, but the right of the person you deem as your proxy, and the option for them to take legal action on your behalf in order to advocate that your wishes be met. And it gives them the right to apply for Medicare, Medicaid, or other programs or insurance on your behalf, a very necessary document at end of life. And then there are the physician orders for life-sustaining treatment. This is a different document that you might look for. It's a set of medical orders in a standardized format that addresses key critical care decisions that have been consistent with your goals of care and results from your clinical process with your provider. So this is something you would speak with your provider about and ask to put into place. And the point of this exercise of physician orders for life-sustaining treatment are that they are designed to facilitate sharing of information and informed medical decision-making on both your behalf as well as your provider's behalf, particularly if and or when you become victim of an advanced progressive illness or frailty. This is something you want to have in place. Have you ever encountered the need to consult advanced directives in your work? Have you encountered physician orders for life-sustaining treatment? Were these always honored to your knowledge? So, again, have you encountered advanced directives in your work? Have you encountered physician orders of life-sustaining? Thank you, Ms. Talbert, for finding 5 wishes for us. I appreciate that. Were these always honored to your knowledge? So when you've met someone who had an advanced directive, was the advanced directive followed to your knowledge? And maybe this is not the case for anyone on the call, but I thought it would be a good question. So yes, I have, and the AD was followed, says Ms. Calder. Thank you. So here are some myths about advanced directives as promised in the objective. So myth number 1 is that you must have a living will in order to facilitate the end of life. And that's simply false. Treatment that is no longer helping can be stopped without a living will. Myth number 2, you have to use your state statutory form for your advanced directive to be valid. This is false. While I gave you the Alabama form, it's not necessary for Alabama to follow the advanced directive. Most states do not require a particular form, but they have witnessing requirements. So with the Alabama form, The persons who witness your advance directive have to be unrelated to you and not have the possibility of inheriting your estate. So they must be unrelated to you and not have the possibility of it inheriting your estate. Those are the two types of witnesses that you must have in your advance directive in Alabama. Advance directives are legally binding, so doctors have to follow them. This is myth number 3. And this is why I asked the question. Ms. Kleiner, nursing homes try to follow the advance directive. Thank you for participating. Myth number 3, false. Advance directives are legally recognized, and doctors must respect your known wishes. But doctors can always refuse to comply if they have an objection of conscience or consider your wishes medically inappropriate. And so in the case of someone maybe with seeking terminating their life, and if that were somehow in their advance directive and a doctor had a crisis of conscience, then they simply wouldn't move forward with denying you treatment because you were looking to end your life. Myth number 4, an advance directive means do not treat. Well, that's false. We know that. It means both what you want and what you don't want. Myth number 5, I should wait until I'm sure about what I want before signing an advance directive. This is false. You should do this now. That's why we're having this discussion now. We should have advance directives in place now. And if your wishes change, then you update your advance directive at a later time. Myth number 6, just talking to my doctor and family about what I want is not legally effective. This is false. In fact, the most meaningful discussion you can have about what you want is with your doctor and family. And this is actually the most important step in setting up your advance directive. And then also having it followed is having your clinician and your family on board. How often should you update your advance directive? Oh, thank you, Ms. Mazingo, for the ARP website. That is one of the websites. You are correct. Thank you so much. That was so sweet of you to go and find that. How often should you update your advance directives? Does anyone have an answer for this? It's kind of a catchy answer. How often should you update your advance directives? When there's a change, update as your wishes change and evolve. These are both true. Whenever you want to make a change, absolutely. But when should you do it? Well, it's ongoing, but you should do a change, make a change, and review when any of the 5 Ds occur. One, the first D is a new decade in age. So I'm 56. When I'm 60, it will be time to update my advance directives, which were put into place a few years ago. Upon the death of a loved one, you should re-examine and perhaps redo your advance directive. If you go through a divorce, or if you have a diagnosis of a significant medical condition, you want to review and update your advance directive, or if you have a decline in a medical condition or functioning. So this would be true not only of your advance directive, but of all of your legal documents. And I would think much of your end-of-life planning, you would want to review whenever any of the 5 Ds occur: decade in age, death of a loved one, divorce, diagnosis, or decline. Myth number 7, once I give my doctor a signed copy of my directive, my task is done. That's false. First, you want to make sure your doctor understands and supports your wishes, and that you understand your health state, your likely futures, and your options in making this plan. And you must realize there's no guarantee that this advance directive will follow you from your primary care provider to your medical record in the event of some incident or accident or hospitalization. you or your proxy should always check to make sure that your provider is aware of your directive and has a copy. And here is another link for you all in the bottom of this screen. This is the toolkit for healthcare advanced planning, and it's at the www.ambar.org/aging toolkit. And this was very helpful to me in looking at the documents necessary to create an end of life plan and crisis notebook, of which one of the key positions or pieces of a crisis notebook are these legal documents. So, step 3 now, we want to begin to make a list of our financial assets. And assets, as you know, are anything that you own that has value, monetary value. This could be your home or land that you own, or land with any permanent structures affixed to it. This could be bank accounts, savings and checkings, or CDs, certificates of deposit. It could be your investments, stocks, money market funds, treasury bills, any retirement funds or pension that you may be due, any life insurance policy that has cash value, and then all of your personal possessions, cars, boats, artwork, antiques, electronics, jewelry, and so forth. Having this written list will help you inventory your finances as they stand today and help you decide who is to inherit them in the event that something should happen to you. This is help for your loved ones after you decease so that they can be sure that all your assets are accounted for. And it's important to formally document these items, and the different documents depend on how you want your it's important to document who you want to inherit these items, rather, and these different documents to do so depending on how you want your assets to be handled in the future. The 3 most common documents necessary for you to add to your crisis notebook, in addition to having the advance directive, is a will, which clearly documents how you want your assets to be distributed after death. And it can also include things like who will care for living adult or children, dependents, pets, or aging dependents. And as you know, your will would only take place after you had died. You can also and might consider putting in place a trust, naming a person, a trustee responsible for managing and distributing your assets once you are no longer able. This goes into effect as soon as it is created and really truly funded. And if a person becomes seriously ill or unable to manage their finances, the trust would take effect then. And then there's durable power of attorney, in which someone has the right to make financial decisions on your behalf when you're no longer able. Without a will or a trust, your assets will be distributed according to state laws and in the course of probate, which is both expensive and time consuming, usually taking at least 6 months after death. And a will can also document your funeral and burial arrangements. So the will can be a multi-purpose document that names many, many things for you. So here's some questions to consider as you begin to compile your crisis notebook. You begin to look at establishing an advance directive, a will, perhaps a trust. Is anyone in my family dependent on me? Okay, ask yourself, who will care for them when I am gone? And this can be a very difficult discussion for someone with young children at home, but it's one that's necessary. Who will care for my pets? Do I want a will or do I want a trust? Which would be better given what I know about my situation? Is my family familiar with my assets and financial accounts? Is someone familiar with my monthly bills and how I pay them? Does my family have the access and passwords they need for financial and billing accounts? Is there a designated person who knows how to access my phone and my computer? Are there any subscription services or social media accounts that I need to close or give someone access. So I want to ask, do you have a will? We've asked about advanced directives. Do you have a will? And if so, does your will include your digital assets? If not, this would be an opportunity and a chance to update and review it. Does your will include your digital assets? Do you have a will? Yes, Miss Wallace. So do I. I'm glad that you do. That was a big weight off of me. I'm glad you do as well, Miss Vaughn. Digital assets are websites, blogs, art, music, writing, business websites, any sort of thing that you might own or create. And then there's digital information, which is anything that may exist digitally on computers and smartphones, including your banking accounts, as well as your social media accounts. Do you know that 1 in 3 caregivers say the top challenge after someone dies or becomes debilitated and can no longer discuss what is needed to be done, that 1 in 3 say the top challenge is locating passwords and accounts? 1 in 3. And 50% nearly don't have legal authorization to ask providers such as banks and credit card companies and email services and Amazon Prime and Hulu and all of these people to disclose any details or give them access to known accounts. So you want to inventory your accounts and maintain an updated list of login information and passwords. This is a critical piece to your crisis notebook. Password management. I've given you 3 of the most popular password management tools, but truly some research shows that the Google Chrome tool is just as effective as any of these, and perhaps more so. So if you're using Google Chrome and you're using its password protector, then you are really probably not in need of a password management tool. But just remember this: someone has to know your Google Chrome login. Now, most states have passed laws that give a person's family a right to access and manage digital assets, but you don't want to be that person who doesn't leave them a trail. Now, legal documents should include language. So if you're doing a will, should include language giving whomever you name the authority to access, control, use, cancel, deactivate, or delete digital accounts and digital assets, and to access, control, use, deactivate, or dispose of digital devices. So make note of this. And then I want to ask, so we've started creating this notebook. We've started gathering these documents. We've got them all in one place. How do we store them, y'all? Where do we put this stuff now that we've got it? Do we just put it in a file? Where do we store our end-of-life documents? Well, one place. So we want to put everything in one place. We may consider getting a waterproof, fireproof safe, or we may place these papers in a safe deposit box. However, if you place them in a safe deposit box, make sure you have a hard and/or digital copy also available at home. For example, if you were to have an incident on a Saturday, you couldn't access, or your family couldn't access, your will or advanced directive or any of your passwords or anything until the following Monday. So you always want these documents need to follow you in your healthcare journey, and you need to tell someone you know and trust where to find these papers. And if you don't have somebody to tell, find a lawyer and deposit those with them, perhaps the lawyer who did them for you. Now, this crisis notebook and all of these documents should include the following: your full legal name, your social, your legal residence, your date of birth, your name of spouse and address, and addresses of children if they're no longer living at home, the location of your birth and death certificates and certificates of marriage, divorce, citizenship, and adoption, any employers and dates of employment, your education and military records, names and phone numbers of religious contacts, memberships in groups and awards received, and names and phone numbers of close friends, relatives, doctors, lawyers, and financial advisors. Ms. Ward, yes, this will be on our YouTube channel after this presentation, and you can take it if you didn't take it today. You can take anything on our YouTube channel for credit. So we want sources of income and assets included in this crisis notebook, including your IRAs, 401ks, any interest earned, et cetera, your Social Security information, what you expect to receive, your insurance information, your life, long-term care, home, car, your policy numbers, agents' names, and phone numbers. We want the names of your banks and account numbers, savings, credit union, checking, investment income, recent income tax return. That's important. The location of your will, liabilities, mortgages, and debts, location of the deed of trust for your home, your credit card and debit card names and numbers and PIN numbers, car titles and registrations, locations of safe deposits and keys. These are all the things we're putting in this crisis notebook. Our current prescriptions, which we, of course, we want to update every time these change. Our living will, our durable power of attorney for healthcare, our copies of any medical orders or forms. For example, if we had a DNR order, and then health insurance information with policy and phone numbers. All of this is going in our crisis notebook, our end of life plan. Now, step 4, we want to plan about our funeral planning. So some of our main decisions here are going to differ clearly from where we've been so far in our journey, but we want to think about body disposition. Do we prefer burial or cremation? Are we thinking about donating our body to medical research? Think about what ceremony or type of ceremony or location of ceremony. Do you want something that's maybe an extended period after your death, a more lighthearted celebration of life of service? Or is it your religious tradition that you would have a wake or sit Shiva? Are there viewings and visitations in your family's culture in terms of how you do burial? What about the funeral? Would this be held at a chapel or at your place of worship? What about burials? Are there mausoleum space or burial plots purchased? And then in cremation, we want to think about things like where would our ashes go? Would these remain in an urn, in a columbarium? Or would we do something like shoot these into fireworks in the sky for a celebration, maybe an end of life celebration service? And then there are the spiritual traditions that we want to consult, including, I always think, those songs that you want played. I'm always moved by the music at funerals, knowing what songs were important to someone. And then any specific traditions that you may like, such as specific readings or songs, perhaps something that was in a loved one's funeral that you'd like to have in yours. And then there's the interment question. Will you be buried or cremated? And if you're cremated again, where will your loved ones, what will your loved ones do with your ashes, excuse me. And it can also include actually going and doing these things yourself and going ahead and pre-purchasing a coffin or an urn, or going ahead and thinking about any items you might want buried with you, like your wedding band or your grandfather's watch or something else that's important to you. So I want to ask you, do you wish to be interred or buried or cremated, or will you donate your body? And I'm always curious about folks, and not that I asked this question, but when it comes up, I'm curious. Would you prefer to be buried or cremated? Buried, says Miss Calder. I think some people have a sense that donate, buried, Miss Anderson, buried, Miss Vaughn, buried, Miss Ward says. I think that I will be cremated. Cremated, says Miss Siggers. As of right now, I would like to donate, Miss Jernigan. That's terrific. Donate it, cremate the rest, says Miss Burrow. That's both and. So funeral planning can be an important part of estate planning, and it's in your family's best interest generally to buy cemetery plots ahead of time. If you're prepaying for funeral goods and services, consider what are you paying for? So are you only buying merchandise like a casket, or are you going ahead and purchasing funeral services as well? What happens to the money you've prepaid? Because it could be some time before it's needed. So what happens to this money you've prepaid? Different states have different requirements. Make sure that you know what is in your wishes. What happens to the interest income on the money that is prepaid and put into the trust account? An example, does it feed this so that you don't get hit later on with a higher bill? Are you protected if the firm goes out of business? Can you cancel the contract if you change your mind down the road? What happens if you move away or die in a different country? Some plans can be transferred, some can't. They often have an added cost. And if you're wondering about the cost, the most recent figures from the National Funeral Directors Association say that the cost of a funeral with a burial and viewing is $7,848, whereas cremation is about $1,000 less at $6,971. And so if you're making a financial decision, it really is pretty much a wash. But I know it's not a financial decision when you decide whether to be cremated or buried. In terms of your funeral, go ahead and assign someone to be in charge of your funeral after you go. Make sure that your preferences for your funeral are in writing. This is part of your crisis notebook, and that copies go to your family and attorney if needed. Avoid putting the only copy of preferences in the safe deposit box, again, because you may die over a holiday weekend and those won't be found until after you're buried. And don't designate your preferences in your will either. Make sure that it's a separate document because the will may not be looked at until after your death. And you may want to create your own obituary or death notice. And this would help you ensure that it captured the details of your life, the things that you found important. And it can also, as you can imagine, alleviate a great deal of burden on loved ones in the immediate aftermath of your death who are left to write your obituary. You can write your obituary in its entirety, or you can just jot down a few bullet points, but you want to talk to your loved ones about it and what information you'd like for your obituary to include when the time comes. And then step 6 is a new document that we want to introduce to you. It's a love letter to your loved ones. And we consider this a part of your crisis notebook. And this may seem daunting. After all, writing a love letter to anyone is kind of a big deal. But it may be one of the most fulfilling and meaningful things that you can do, certainly if you are in preparation for your death. Many people, as we know anecdotally, feel burdened at the end of life by unexpressed gratitude or feelings for people who matter most to them. Writing this love letter can unburden you, and it will help you take the time to reflect and communicate thoughts to them that can be positive and liberating for them as well as for you. And it can provide a sense of closure for them when you're gone. And so here we have, everyone leaves a paper trail. We want to make sure that our paper trail is concise in one place and that people know where it is. We want to include a family love letter. Now, we had Patty Black, who did the family love letter for us back in 2022, and their logo is here. You can also Google family love letter and find this information. It's another end-of-life planning document, but it specifically talks about writing an ethical will. An ethical will is designed to pass on your guiding principles, your memories, your spiritual and other values, and your wishes for your family's future after you. It's a tool that you can use for self-reflection. And I think if you use it as such, it will also provide you with self-improvement. And it can also be a way in which you can begin to distribute some of those things that may not have made the list under financial assets. So not everything has value. Your great-grandmother's serving dish probably doesn't have a lot of value in terms of monetarily, but it has a great deal of sentiment within your family. And writing an ethical will or a love letter, you can leave that plate to whom you think it's appropriate and let them know why you did so. And you can even, in someone else's love letter, know why you gave the plate to one person and not the other, and what your thinking was, and maybe then you give them something differently. But family photographs, recipes and recipe boxes, old things of that nature, like your composition book from your great grandmother, items of clothing, objects that have personal value but not a lot of monetary value, and it can help explain your intentions behind why you leave these gifts and why you left what you left in your will, your last will and testament, to whom you left those things to. There's a book here you can see in the on screen, Ethical Wills. It's by Dr. Barry K. Baines. You can use this book to get more information about ethical wills and write your own. Do you think that you would like to attempt to write your ethical will? It's kind of a big undertaking, but do you think that you would like to attempt to write your ethical will, your love letter to your family, to those who are left behind for whom you're providing closure? Can you see yourself doing this? Yes, I think it's a good idea. I do too, Ms. Kleiner. In fact, that's what I'm starting to work on now. So if you're doing an end of the life will, you want to just ask yourself these questions. What are the basics of me? What are the most significant events, moments, and experiences in my life? What traits did I inherit from my parents? What was my family like growing up? How did I meet my spouse? And if we're divorced, why we got divorced? Favorite things, your travel, your favorite place, your favorite song, artist, quote, food, board game, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Your happiest memories around these thoughts. And then your academic and professional life, what you studied in college, your thoughts about higher education or higher learning, your most challenging moments in your work life, and the best workplace advice you can offer. These are some of the things you want to ask and pass on. Your most meaningful experiences, moments you cherished or didn't, and you may want to offer here an apology or a confession. Again, offering closure to those persons left behind, something you weren't able to communicate while living, but that you feel it's important for them to know about you or about their part of your life. You would also want to express your religious and political views, your hopes for the future, and your advice for them, for their future, hopes for their futures, and how they might have changed your life by simply being in it. And then maybe also those stories, those families, cultural stories that make us who we are, that you don't want to be lost. You put those in your ethical will, in your family love letter. And here, again, you'll have to just cut and paste this from the PDF, but it gives you an ethical will worksheet, which is from something called Everplan. You might also just Google Everplan. So I think I'm going backwards. Let's see. The only problem with last confessions, it may open wounds and leave unanswered questions for the surviving family, friends. I think that's true, Miss Dean. And that would be such a personal decision for whomever about whether they would want to do a confession in writing, something that was permanent, that would be read over and over and over. I mean, certainly you would want to give some thought to that. But that concludes our presentation today. I appreciate again all of you being with me for a somewhat sobering topic. Our password is will, as in last will and testament, capital W, lowercase ILL. The password today is will. The survey link for today, I'll read one more time for those of you. It's https:// www.surveymonkey.com / lowercase r / 7 all uppercase letters, B as in boy, T as in toy, P as in play, R57. That's our link. You must do the evaluation to get credit for the day. Nurses, we will be posting your hours within the week. Everyone who does the survey by 8:30 this evening will receive a certificate in an email from me, along with this presentation, which includes links for you. Let me put the link in the chat one more time. It is https://www.surveymmonkey.com/lowercase r/7 B as in boy, T as in toy, P as in play, R57. Thank you so much for those of you who refer business to Care Patrol. It keeps us going and we appreciate you. Remember us if you have anyone who has any question at all about what's about to happen in their healthcare journey. We can help them understand how to answer those questions and how to receive and look for services that are appropriate to them. Thank you, Ms. Wilson, for being here today. And thank you all for being here. Please join us on Monday, the 11th, when we look, our topic is social work supervision. And that has also been suggested to us by others. And let me say to you all, I am not a clinician, but I do enjoy sharing information with you. And so if I speak to you about social work supervision, I'm not coming from the place of a social worker or of someone who is a supervisor, merely someone who has information that I want to share that I hope will enhance your private and personal life and clinical practice as well. So thank you for being here today. Please join us Monday, and y'all have a great week ahead. So much. Well, having difficulty, y'all. Thank you.